Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. Christ is in our midst. Regarding St. Bassa, the martyr of Edessa, and her sons Theognis, Agapius, and Pistus, the martyrs were from Edessa in Macedonia. Bassa was the wife of a certain Valerian, a priest of the idols, to whom she bore 3 sons and raised them in piety. She was betrayed with her sons to the consul by her own husband. Each of her sons was tormented before her and beheaded. For refusing to worship the idols, she was imprisoned, cast into water and then fire, was stoned, and remaining unharmed, was brought to the temple to worship the idols. Laying hold upon the idol of Zeus, she overturned it and broke it to pieces. After being preserved through further torments, she was beheaded about the year 290 in the reign of Maximian. Your martyrs, O Lord, in their courageous contest for you, received as the prize the crowns of incorruption and life from you, our immortal God. For since they possessed your strength, they cast down the tyrants, and wholly destroyed the demon's strengthless presumption. Christ God, by their prayers, save our souls, as you are merciful. Valiantly following the footsteps of Salome, thou gavest courage to thy sons to suffer martyrdom. O divinely blessed Bassa, thou rock of courage, and when thou hadst thrice endured thy 3 sons' sufferings, thou through many grievous torments was joined unto them. Hence we cry to you, rejoice, O victors in martyrdom. Regarding Saint Thaddaeus, the Apostle Thaddaeus was from Edessa, a Jew by race. When he came to Jerusalem, he became a disciple of Christ, and after his ascension, he returned to Edessa. There he catechized and baptized Abgar, who commemorated the miracle of the image made without hands on August 16. Having preached in Mesopotamia, he ended his life in martyrdom. Though some call him one of the 12, whom Matthew calls Levius, whose surname was Thaddaeus, Eusebius says that he is one of the 70. After Christ's resurrection from the dead and his ascent into heaven, Thomas, one of the 12 apostles, inspired by God, sent Thaddaeus, one of the 70 disciples of Christ, to Edessa as a preacher and evangelist of Christ's teaching. The holy apostle Thaddaeus intercede to our most merciful God, that he may grant our souls forgiveness of sins. The apostle's joyous feast is come with radiant splendor. Let us keep it on this day with jubilation and gladness. To them who ever honor him in sincere faith, it doth grant their sins forgiveness and true divine health, for he hath great boldness as a divine initiate of Christ's omnipotent grace. From St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Brethren, love is patient and kind. This pericope of 1 Corinthians is often misunderstood as a dedication to love in the romantic sense. We will often see this in Protestant weddings where the bride or the groom will use this verse as a dedication to love, but that is not what this love is. The love of marriage is eros, a type of love that is singular and all-consuming for an individual person. God has that love for each one of us. The love that is mentioned here is agape. A, opposite, ego, me. So in other words, this love, sometimes translated as charity, means not me, the opposite of me, selfless love. So, selfless love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. How could it be? It is not concerned about the self. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Now, this is important because love is Christ. Christ is love. And the closer we draw to Christ, the more we will be in love. So if we want to love our partner better, we must love Christ more. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For our knowledge is imperfect, and our prophecy is imperfect. But when the perfect comes, the imperfect will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. This is referring to spiritual immaturity. As we grow in the faith, as we draw closer to Christ, we are able to put away our childish, meaning immature, because obviously we are trying to have the purity of a child, but not the immaturity of a child. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. In other words, when we can see God, clearly the mirror is clean. But because of our sins, it's all smudged up. It's like we put grease over the mirror. And so it's a dim reflection. But when we draw closer to him, it is clearer. Now I know in part. Then I shall understand fully, even as I have been fully understood. Meaning God knows me completely. So faith, hope, love, abide. These three. But the greatest of these is love. Make love your aim. In other words, when we seek selflessness, all of the other things are encompassed in it. And earnestly desire the spiritual gifts, especially that you may prophesy. In other words, to be able to speak on behalf of God. For one who speaks in tongues speaks not to men, but to God. For no one understands him, but he utters mysteries in the Spirit. On the other hand, he who prophesies speaks to men for their upbuilding and encouragement and consolation. He who speaks in a tongue edifies himself, but he who prophesies edifies the church. Now I want you all to speak in tongues, but even more to prophesy. He who prophesies is greater than he who speaks in tongues, unless someone interprets, so that the church may be edified. The Gospel is according to the feast of St. Thaddaeus. The Gospel according to St. Mark. At that time Jesus went up on the mountain and called to him those whom he desired, and they came to him, and he appointed 12 to be with him, and to be sent out to preach and have authority to cast out demons. Simon, whom he surnamed Peter, James the son of Zebedee, and John the brother of James, whom he surnamed Boanerges, that is, son of thunder, Andrew and Philip and Bartholomew, Matthew and Thomas, and James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddaeus, and Simon the Cananean, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Then he went home, and the crowds came together again, that they could not even eat. And when his family heard it, they went out to seize him, for people were saying, he is beside himself. I hope that you've enjoyed today's spiritual calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.